This is the Last Movie Run podcast. I'm your host, Josh Gilliam. I'm going to be joined this week by my frequent co-host and collaborator, Gary Torres.
That is me. Hello there, everybody.
And good friend of the podcast, Thomas Lemos.
Hey, what's cracking?
All right, guys. This week we're going to get into some movie news. Some trailers have dropped. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about Transformers 1 and The Penguin, Episode 1. Let's start off with some movie news. The Minecraft movie trailer certainly came out, didn't it?
That is it.
It's out, yeah.
It's something.
Doesn't look great. It really doesn't. I think a lot of people were expecting a lot from a movie that's a decade in the making. It was first announced in 2014.
Really?
Was it?
It was.
Oh, wow.
To think Minecraft came out in like 2010, that's even funnier.
That's incredible.
It doesn't look good. Everything's really weird and fleshy, and
really
Jason
bothered
Momoa's not wearing that wig well. So
For sure.
what are your thoughts on this?
For starters, pink is not his color. I'll start there, though.
Hey, hold on. It might be the wrong tone of pink.
Maybe. But no, the pigs, like any creature that's supposed to have flesh, it has too much detail of flesh.
Yeah.
And it's very unsettling.
I believe for that, people really didn't like, I believe it's the big square ghost thing that is supposed to be a big square ghost, and it's all fleshy.
Yeah. It's just all unsettling to look at. It's very creepy like.
It's not good.
No.
So the whole world does not look right. And I'm very curious. I think it's going to be a Jumanji situation where we get our 4 characters coming into this world.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah. And Jack Black, he's catching so much heat for this movie.
Too many strays, I'm going to be honest. Too many.
It's a mixture, I think, for him of everything that's just happened with his band and everything that has happened with just his acting career in general recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys want to weigh in on that? I
want to get started with Minecraft. I need to get my foot in the door here.
Please.
I'm a big, for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm a big fan of movies and TV. I want to work in the film industry. I want to contribute in some way, shape, or form to the world that was essentially my childhood and shaped the person that I am. So to see another video game movie that screws the pooch that easily, that quickly is hilarious to me. The basics of Minecraft is you're just a dude named Steve. There are skeletons running around with bows and arrows, giant spiders, zombies. You've got zombified pigs running around with golden swords. There are different dimensions. There's a dragon you have to fight. And the goal is you just want to survive.
You're fighting to survive. You're fighting to destroy that dragon and just end it all. And then you're perfectly fine with being done.
And then you can just do whatever.
It's a great game.
The fact that they have the simplest of ideas and they go, yeah, let's just not use Steve. Let's make an entire CGI world, but we'll cast real actors in it. First of all, the green screen and the blending, I think it looks decent at some points. Otherwise, it just looks wonky, especially with the shot of the 4 of them looking out into the world and they're confused and whatever. I think it's weird. I agree with you that it feels like a Jumanji thing because it looks like they come out. Did they come out of a portal? Is that what it is?
They did.
I think
they walked out of a portal.
That's what I'm thinking. Did they just walk into a portal in the real world and then they just happen to end up in the world of Minecraft? Why don't they resemble the world of Minecraft? That would be cool if it's hey, they...
if they change their figures to be more Minecraft related and it feels more animated, less CGI, less flesh, because the flesh will never not bother me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people wanted out of this. No one wanted a live action movie.
No.
They wanted Jack Black to voice
the
animated square Steve.
He would have been great.
He would have been great voice.
And
he's a great
instead
actor.
we have gotten him in a blue shirt with a weird collar and
it's just his usual look, but with all the blue that Steve does.
All they did is just
that's the thing.
Throw him in the colors of the outfit. It's like those low budget cosplays you'll see some people do that's just mad cringe. Like he's probably wearing like black. Like I would cry laughing if he's wearing like black Air Force Ones as his shoes, because Steve's shoes are just black.
Yeah.
And the worst part is this was like, it feels like it was all his idea though, because he was an avid player of Minecraft when his son was small, or Jack Black. So like he's very like into Minecraft. He's always pushed for it, and he wanted this more than anything else.
But that's where I think is the problem. Is like, okay, well, this is a guy who really wants to portray this role, and he wants to participate in this film, but it doesn't feel like it's actually following through on what Minecraft is. It just feels like this is Jack Black.
Yeah.
Like he's Jack Black playing Jack Black,
it's
calling
Jack
himself
Black's
Steve.
take on his feelings for Minecraft, it feels like.
Exactly. It's like if he were to exaggerate Minecraft for something, it feels like he's telling a story of what Minecraft is when he goes, I am Steve. It feels like he's telling a story, like making fun of or exaggerating Minecraft.
Yeah.
And I actually wanted to touch on that exact point, because he's catching a lot of heat for that. He's done a lot of roles recently where people are saying, well, he's not really playing a character like he did in School of Rock or Gulliver's Travel, even though I would argue he was also just doing this.
He was
people
just himself,
saying he's just doing roles where he's just Jack Black.
Yeah. They're just little pieces of him.
I do have to say there was one role that I think he killed. It's great. I don't know if you guys saw it, 2011's Bernie. Where it's a biographical film. It's about a guy, Bernie Till, I believe was his name. He actually plays a role really well. He's like a devout Christian. He's a leader of like multiple church groups. He is I believe he's a mortician. He's well known in his like this tiny town. He becomes friends with the meanest lady in the town, and eventually she is murdered, and it turns out it happens to be Bernie. Now, keep in mind, he has a reputation of being the nicest guy ever. So everyone is like, well, who cares? Bernie's a great guy. We'll forgive him because, but he's like, in the role, I believe it's an R-rated film. I don't remember for sure, but he takes it to heart heavily. He becomes way more emotional in that film. And I think that's where you can see the aspects of like, if he did a different role, he would do great. If he actually tried doing something else besides being Jack Black in a film, you could see that. But because we're so used to it.
Yeah, it's how he's always like developed his characters. His characters have always been little pieces of him.
Yeah. He said 3 words in the trailer and everyone's like, that's just Jack Black. It's like, yeah, because that's all we need. If it wasn't that tone, if it was something else, if it was like the dramatic thing where it's like, who are you? It's like, hey, I'm Steve. Like, that would have been funny. That would have been hilarious for the trailer. Can you imagine that? Like, he just murders a zombie. Like, who is this obviously the fixed shirt collar, because that thing's atrocious. And he just turns around. Sup, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to see my dirt house? And then, like, that would have been a cut to the title screen. That would have been funny.
That would have been better. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Shit,
it's
put me on this. Put me on the Minecraft movie. I got you.
Yeah, he's definitely caught a lot of flack for this. People seem to think this is directly his fault. Not sure what Jason Momoa was doing here.
Could not tell you.
Recognize some of the other cast members, but could not tell you what else they've been in. I don't know. Do you guys think this movie is gonna do you think this is gonna come out and people are gonna really turn the tide and say this universally, this was a great movie?
I just hope it's not an absolute bombshell is all it is. I just hope it's not absolutely terrible, because I love Jack Black. The cast, I couldn't tell you much about him besides Jason Momoa maybe. And he's not bad. I'm not too much of a fan personally, but like, it's a story that's been waiting to be told, and people have been waiting, and it's like, there's not too much thought you can do with this. It's more of just like, whoever's directing and creating this film for it is going to be like, it's going to be their take on it. It's going to be their process of going forward in through the game and getting towards that end point. And by the look of it, it feels like when they defeat the Ender Dragon, it's going to send the characters home since they're transported in there. It's like sort of like you said, like a Jumanji thing.
Yeah.
So like, it feels very just like, of course, Jumanji-esque, but like, it's just their take on it.
I'm going to get mad
I
at
guess.
that, bro. If it's a Jumanji thing, I'm actually going to get mad.
So, moving right along here. We're getting a new Wolfman movie. You guys seen anything about this?
Seen the teaser. Aesthetically and in terms of the editing of the trailer, it looks great. It looks interesting. There was a design supposedly of the Wolfman at I think Universal's Halloween Horror Nights.
They did have it was interesting. Instead of showing it online or in a teaser, they had a cardboard cutout or statue or something.
I thought it was a guy like wearing a like makeup fit, or like he was wearing the makeup or whatever, the prosthetics. It doesn't look like a wolf at all. It just looks like a guy with talons.
It is a very hairy
shaggy
man.
hair.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of Beast from X-Men. I'm not gonna lie.
It reminds me of Sabretooth from X-Men. That's what it looks like. Like
like the older X-Men though, not the newer ones.
Yeah, I know. It just looks like a raggedy, like Sabretooth spent a month in the woods like looking for Logan, and then he's just become a rabid dog. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look like a like a wolf man. It just looks like a dude who just needs to see a dentist.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
it's a manicure.
It's very interesting. This is the route we're taking these Universal monster movies. I mean, they definitely tried and failed very quickly with the Dark Universe to try and get something going. And ever since, we've been getting these solo movies. We got The Invisible Man. I believe we're getting an Invisible Woman movie.
We are, yeah.
We've got The Wolfman.
So.
It honestly makes me wonder why they didn't do this in the first place. I mean, I get everyone at the time wanted their cinematic universe after Marvel came out swinging.
Yeah.
But the Universal monster movies of the 60s certainly didn't start with an interconnected universe and a cast photo full of people who weren't in the same room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful if that's the route they're really trying to take, that this is going to be the better step towards it.
What I find funnier, just to interject real quick before we jump on the next topic, is that 2010 had a Wolfman starring Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt, Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that film in its entirety. I've seen clips, and from what it looks, it's amazing. The design of the Wolfman resembles a Wolfman. The transformation scene when he's like trapped in the middle of an experiment is phenomenal. Yeah, the CGI is wonky, but that was 2010, budgets, whatever. And the ending of the film, I'm not going to spoil it in case y'all haven't seen it. It sets up a sequel with that Wolfman character. So if they had retconned it the way that they did with Blade and Deadpool and Wolverine, where it's like, okay, well, this character showed up in 3 movies, disappeared forever, we assume he's dead. Lo and behold, Blade's just back. Or with Elektra, that's the perfect way to like to retcon and reconnect. You could have done that instead of a whole reboot. We're like, all right, here's another Wolfman. It's like, no, this is what happened decades ago. Now we can transition into the modern era or set it during that time. Why not see the Universal monster set during like 1800s London? Like all of them. Imagine Frankenstein running around. The Wolfman is doing his thing. The Invisible Man is out and about. That would have been amazing. But instead, it's like we need to update the films every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're getting a new Nosferatu movie set in the 1800s, and it looks really good.
That's what I'm saying. It looks amazing. And I think, what's his name? It's Bill Skarsgård. He's playing Nosferatu. I think he's going to do phenomenal. He's put as a lot of horror characters nowadays. He was Pennywise. He recently played the reboot of The Crow. Not that great. Honestly.
No, not a very good reboot.
Not a very good reboot. I think
they also
reboot
could be a hit.
They took too much out of the character and they tried to make it too modern and edgy. It was crap. But I think he's doing well when it comes to these horror type characters and exploring the range of horror films. I think he's doing amazing in that aspect.
I agree. I really did like him in John Wick Chapter 4.
He was
as the bad guy.
Yeah, he was great.
He was good.
He really was good in that.
Yeah, the Marquis. He was great.
Yeah. Chugging right along here. Beetlejuice 2 came out recently.
That it did.
Oh dear.
You guys, Gary, I don't believe you've seen this movie.
I have not. I've seen just ridiculous amounts of trailers, but it didn't catch me. I'm not gonna lie. I've never been against Beetlejuice, but it's never caught my attention personally.
Now, I'd never seen the first Beetlejuice before going and seeing this movie. And I think it's odd because you definitely need to see the first movie to understand everything. It connects very heavily.
I see.
To that first installment.
You have to have the...
But seeing it like back to back, like there was 30 minutes between me finishing that movie and going to the theater. It is not as strong as the first movie.
No?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that would seem to be reflected in its Rotten Tomatoes
How's it hitting?
How's it looking?
Now, the original Beetlejuice, keep in mind, came out in 1988.
Yeah.
Yeah.
is 83% fresh.
That's not bad.
Don't
With
tell
an
me the score.
82% popcorn meter.
Okay, that's good. Don't
That's
tell me
not
the
bad.
score for the new one. I want to ask you actually, Gary, what do you think the score for this new one is? Because I haven't seen it either.
I don't think it's going to break 60.
You don't think it's going to break 60? I think it's going to sit around 50, 60, honestly.
Yeah. Like, again, didn't see it, but it's not catching my attention. It feels like it's more of just a nostalgia base because it's bringing back old characters from what I saw.
That's
It's
Hollywood
one of
right
those
now.
movies where it's like, it feels like if it's trying to do a nostalgia factor, it's bringing back most to all the characters. It's more of just to say, oh my gosh, look how they look now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the story is okay. You got Jenna Ortega in it. You got
They're
because
trying to
Jenna Ortega
capitalize
is trying to get big.
and they're trying to capitalize off of like Wednesday and how good that was, and then they brought in Jenna Ortega right after, and it's like, aha, that's funny. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
What is the official score? Hit us with it.
please.
The official tomato meter score is actually sitting at a 77% right now.
I
Okay,
would have
so it's
lost
not
that bet.
No,
I cannot
hold on.
deny.
Now, it was a good movie. Maybe I made it sound a little worse than it was.
A little
Audience
bit.
score.
You egged it on a bit.
The
Audience
audience
score.
score is 80%.
Okay.
Pretty
That's
high.
interesting. So again, it's like it's nostalgia bait. It's just like you said. It feels like nostalgia bait at least.
I mean, if it's nostalgia bait and it's a score that high, that means it's the people that enjoyed the first one, and we're just hoping to see the second one and feel a bit of that nostalgia, and it must have caught that nostalgia feeling for him then.
Now, I will say I did go to see this with my girlfriend. I have no nostalgia for this movie. Like I said, the first time I saw it was 30 minutes before I went and saw the new one. And I'll say it wasn't as strong because the first one had both Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin as essentially the main characters of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they were absent because the way their characters work, they were ghosts. They've obviously aged,
Yeah.
35 years. We weren't going to be able to have them at the same age. I understand why they were absent.
100%.
The new one has some wonky plot lines. I think there's too many villains in the movie. I think we see too much of Beetlejuice. But I ultimately think it was a very, very good movie. I think the popcorn meter is reflecting that because I have no nostalgia for this. And there's,
If it's a good story, it's a good story.
honestly, I think Michael Keaton was good in it. He continues to be good in that role.
Yep.
I think Jenna Ortega was good with what she was given. I think the girl with the funky haircut who's,
Winona Ryder.
yep,
She's fantastic.
She's
I cannot
fantastic.
believe you forgot
God,
it.
Winona Ryder.
She continues to be fantastic. But what really caught my attention for this, and I did not know he was in this movie, and I was so surprised and happy sitting through the opening credits. Willem Dafoe
Oh yeah, I forgot
is
he's in
in
this.
Beetlejuice
Yes.
too.
What?
And
Him and-
he's
him
playing
and,
a detective.
Him and Monica Bellucci are in this. Yeah.
He is so good in that movie. He is playing a detective in the afterlife who used to play a detective on TV. So when he died, that became his job.
Oh, wow.
So he's just there chewing as much scenery as possible. He's got this. He's clearly died in some sort of motorcycle accident or something because, the right or
Does
left
he have
side
the
of his
tire
brain
treads?
is. No, he's got his brain is exposed on one corner of his head, and he's just running around chewing as much scenery as possible. He's asking for coffee cups just to squeeze them dramatically. So people
That is
seem to enjoy
fantastic.
this. I enjoyed it.
You just can't get enough of Defoe.
I love Dafoe, man.
Willem Dafoe really.
He doesn't do wrong in any film.
No.
No,
And he
he-
enjoys what he does.
Oh yeah.
He, when I look back at this movie, is what I remember the most. All right.
He's in Nosferatu, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
Oh, wow.
That's gonna be fun.
Let's talk some trailers that have come out this week.
Gee willigers.
Oh,
So-
boy.
Starting off, we finally got the trailer for Thunderbolts Asterix.
We do love the asterisk.
I do wonder what they're finally gonna call this movie, and I think we're not gonna find out till the credits roll, opening night.
It feels like it. Just before it releases, it's like, oh, still asterisk. We'll figure it out when we get to the end.
I feel most certain this is gonna become Dark Avengers, and they leaned too heavily into the Thunderbolts idea, because watching this trailer, it really does seem like Dark Avengers.
I just hope they do a bit more than what it looks like, because it just looks like it's all the trailer is mostly showing is Florence Pugh as Yelena. And, like, it's showing all the other characters, but, like, she's got the most screen time just on the trailer. It's the trailer, of course.
It's Florence Pugh. She's, like, one of the most high
But, like, she's going to be the most known on it.
She's the most bankable actress right now in Hollywood.
It's true.
So, of course, like, they're going to put her front and center with everything. It's like, hey, it's Florence Pugh's new movie. It's like, ah! And then everybody's going to freak out and go for it.
Yeah, movie-wise, she's the most recent, so it makes sense why she's, like, kind of the front man so far for the trailer. Front woman, my mistake.
It does seem as though she's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting alongside Sebastian Stan and his continued role as Bucky Barnes.
Fantastic role.
And Kurt Russell's son.
Wyatt Russell
as a U.S. agent. No, I really liked him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's a guy
I'm not
I
gonna
think everyone loved to hate.
I was following your
I absolutely despise the character. And that's why he did great with it.
He did really good.
The funny thing is, like, I saw a really good YouTube video. I forgot the name of it, but it's called The Perfect Straw Man, something like that, or The Good Straw Man. It is a great tale of, like, when you look at John Walker, there are some things that obviously are faults of the man himself, but he was set up by the government to be the next Captain America. Even without the serum and all that, he was prompted up as, like, the great soldier. Like, have you ever jumped on a grenade? Yeah, 3 actually. And then it's like, he has the Purple Heart. It's a big deal.
One of the most decorated soldiers.
The most decorated soldier, and they screw him over. So
it's all a setup.
To get the notion of, the only issue I have with that is that he still seems like a good guy, even if he did make a very big, and let's be real here, every person in this room, if one of you were to die the same way as his buddy Battlestar, because I can't remember the guy's actual freaking name, and I in that emotional moment, I would definitely, want to kill somebody at that point too, because of the connection for years. So I can't really blame him. I can't name how many times we've had, like, a revenge tale that happened and people don't even complain about the revenge.
I'll be honest, I completely forgot about Battlestar's arc and Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, because he didn't have an arc. He was just like the little.
He was kind of just there as his buddy.
He was his Bucky,
his wingman,
his Bucky. Yeah, so that's why it was pointless. So the fact that, like, okay, they're bringing him back and they show him now he has a kid, great for him. But I'm also curious to see, like, is he going to be more like the comics character who's just this, like, deranged idiot who thinks he's, like, an actual good guy when he's clearly not?
I think that's what they're leaning
towards. Or is he
or
is he going to be a good guy who's just doing some deranged things here and there? Like, so far he's doing, like, Black Ops stuff, and it's like, okay, but, like, is he deranged? Is he losing his mind a little bit? Or is it just, or is he just a decent guy at heart?
Well, I do think they kind of really leaned into the deranged aspects of him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and now that he's got his own movie, I'm sure they're going to lean into he really has a heart of gold and he didn't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
I think all these characters are going to get that treatment.
Yeah. I just wonder how they're going to do David Harper, though, as Red Guardian. That's mostly what I'm excited for, because I love him as an actor. He's fantastic.
I think this is going to be a main outing for U.S. Agent, Yelena's Black Widow, Red Guardian, and Bucky Barnes.
I don't like the new Guardian, the new Red Guardian suit. I'm sorry, I don't like it.
It's not too far off from the first one.
Though. No, I don't think it is.
The first one had details. It was red and white. This one is just red and odd details of, like, pale yellow. And even then, it's been they MCU'd the suit even more. Like, it's got way more details and lines all over the place, and I don't like the design of the suit. I don't like the pale yellow that they.
Still the same like the U.S. agent. They changed up the U.S. agent
the U.S. agent suit, even though the first time they showed the suit, it was perfect.
Yeah, when they first showed it at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was the exact look that you're looking for.
Down to the last.
And then when the trailer comes out for Thunderbolts, they changed it up.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? It looked fantastic.
It's MCU.
It looked right on point. And now it's like, what is these colors?
What is going on? They can't set their mind on a design for a suit. Dude, the concept art for the team looked perfect. When they released the concept art, I was like, okay, cool, that's perfect. Elena's got the green that makes her stand out a little bit. Red Guardian's got, like, an updated, like, modernized suit. Okay, Bucky's got the Captain America Winter Soldier fit. U.S. Agent looks fine. Taskmaster and Ghost look good. I'm like, okay, that would have been perfect. We don't have those suits. It's a complete different look for all the characters. And it bothers me because that's what it's like. We need to give them a new suit every single film, every single story. It's like, look, I love.
We have to update them.
My favorite MCU character is Captain America. right?
Oh, I'm right there with you.
I love Steve Rogers.
Right there.
I love Steve Rogers and his little heart of gold. But man, does he need a new suit every 30 seconds?
Well, he is the one character in the MCU, I would argue, he didn't get a new suit every 30 seconds because they kind of got that Age of Ultron suit in and just kind of rode that out with some minor tweaks here and there.
But that's what I'm saying.
They did only minor texture changes here and there.
But that's what I'm saying.
Because it was a good suit.
It was a great
very good suit.
But they keep tweaking it. That's my thing. Like, do you have to tweak it so much every time? Between Age of Ultron and what was it called? Civil War. The suit got a little more of a Winter Soldier vibe to it. It got like they took out the white. It darkened a little more. I thought that looked great.
They went to the gray undertone because they knew he was going to start going underground because he didn't like what was going on with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, the damage to the suit in Infinity War looks great because, and this is funny, you'll notice the design of the star and the lines popping off the star actually match up with the scale suit that he wears during Endgame. Like and you see the scales underneath, so it's like, okay, that pattern matches a little bit. They mess with that, sure, but like, okay, so we had First Avenger, and then we had
First Avengers suit can't be beat.
No, I mean the first.
No, it cannot.
Yeah, the First Avenger,
especially with how it's like battle worn, where it's got the dirt, where all the red and white is supposed to be.
That like bounced off and damaged the paint of the shield. I love that.
It'll always be my favorite movie.
But that's the thing. It's like First Avenger, then you go to the Avengers, then you go to what was it? It was Winter Soldier, then Age of, like they're always tweaking the suits and changing it.
Yeah,
that's what bothers me. Like, keep a suit for a while. That's why I was happy when we saw the Endgame trailer. I know we're off topic, but just real quick, when we saw the Endgame trailer and we saw the stealth suit from Winter Soldier come back, I was the happiest guy in the room because I was like, finally, we're bringing back a suit that functionally I wouldn't mess with. I think it's fine. Yeah, you can tweak colors. Sure, I get that. But they keep tweaking suits, and that's what I don't like about Red Guardian's suit. It's just, they keep changing stuff all the time when it doesn't need to be tweaked.
You know
what? You know what? On the topic of Thunderbolts and the suits, let's get into Ghost and Taskmaster.
That is exactly what I was going to bring up. Oof. I think the Taskmaster suit should not have changed. I am all for the new Ghost suit. It's actually more comic accurate than it was in Quantumania.
I'm more for it here too, honestly.
It looks good. And the bit where she phases through the knife and then catches it and then throws it back, I've seen a lot of talk about it. Everyone loves that. I hope they do her better.
Yeah, I liked her. She didn't have much in Quantumania, it feels like. She was just there.
No, it wasn't Quantumania. It was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
My mistake.
Yeah.
You're right. I quite liked her in Ant-Man and the Wasp. No one else did.
I thought she was good.
Yeah.
It's just she didn't have much going on, though.
Yeah.
She was barely noticeable there, is what the problem is.
With the quantum powers. I must find
because they could have done more with her.
Yeah.
It's just, she's going by her character name, Ghost, and like really, she's kind of just there. She's not really doing much. She has little influences here and there, but character-wise, she didn't do much.
Oh, yeah, no.
She didn't do a thing. I hope they bring more to her now.
Me too. And I think Taskmaster only got a slight suit reveal in the trailer.
She did.
Like, Ghost got a little more action. We see her holding a bow and arrow at one point.
Oh, yeah.
She went like
I don't know what that's about. I thought the suit looked good in Black Widow for what it was.
Yeah. It's the closest thing you can get with the character that you
picked. It's the Homelander meme, down to the last, minute detail. I would go with that suit forever. I wouldn't tweak it. If anything, I would make it slightly wider, in the future, just because, like, all right, they're living up to the title of Taskmaster. I get it. Like, it's a little, you're going to paint it a little white to make it stand out more. Like, aren't they supposed to be stealthy? Like, dude, it's a world of superheroes. Everybody's colorful. They know who you are. Scare them.
Yeah.
Moon Knight.
You gotta have the fear factor.
Moon Knight wears white in the comics so that they can see him coming. That's the point. So, like, if you saw a skull-faced, hooded maniac with a bow and arrow pointed at you, you're like, oh, shoot. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
Taskmaster's just all white and gray now.
It boggles me that they went this direction with this costume, especially after they decided to go that same direction with a Ghost. Why you wouldn't have some sort of differentiation.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it looks like they just went to the same store.
Yeah.
They modernized the skull, like whatever design there is. It's literally just big black circles. You got the little lines. That's
they
it.
Went to the store.
Whereas the last skull,
let's match.
The last skull had the visor, which makes sense because it adds on to the photographic memory thing, even though it's technically programming. They had teeth that had fangs. You'll notice in the design, there were fangs in the teeth. It resembles somewhat of a skull.
It just had great detail.
It had a bit of grimace and menace to it. And again, it's made out of metal. You're thinking, okay, well, this Terminator-looking dude is coming at me.
Yeah.
And now it's just, hey, that guy from Fortnite is pointing an odd-looking bow and arrow at me.
Just white and gray.
Like, it looks like Ace of Spades just popped out and fixed his mask a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's a completely different person.
Exactly.
Really. You couldn't even tell it's Taskmaster unless you pay attention.
They are also speculating that we now know who bought Avengers Tower from Spider-Man Homecoming, I believe we did
Homecoming
that.
was when we mentioned that the tower was being bought, and that was it.
People are saying that, I believe it's Allegra Valentina.
It seemed that way.
Is that
just
her
looking
name?
at it from the trailer.
I thought it was like Valeria or I think it's Valentina or Valeria or something. I don't know. I
It's
just
Valentina.
call her. It was like Julia Dreyfus. Is that her name?
Yes.
Name of the actress? Julia Dreyfus. By the way,
Lady from Seinfeld.
stunning actress. By the way, she's beautiful and she's really funny.
She's really good.
Yeah.
She's good at what she does.
She's in an office at one point, and it certainly does look like Stark Tower.
Yeah.
So people are now saying that they have bought this building. I was certain she worked for the government. Does that mean Stark Tower was bought by the government?
There's a chance. The government always wanted the Stark Tech. So
We don't know, but that people
Just
are
depends how
certainly
they see it.
speculating
Yeah.
about that. Hype meter.
Hype?
Scale of 1 to 3 here. What do we think this movie's going to be?
I want to say it's a 2 to be hopeful, maybe a 2.5 if we're going from 1 to 3 scaling.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have high hopes. I always like Sebastian as Bucky. Yelena does good work for Florence Pugh. Like, the character lineups are good. It's just, it all depends on the story. The outfits, the costumes can be, like, okay. It's not terrible, because it's not all the costumes that are bad.
Yeah.
The costumes are fine. But it all depends on how they depict this story. How they portray these characters that have been more on the sidelines and not into their own light, besides, of course.
And the final scene in this trailer actually gives me a lot of hope, where he's saying, the car's bulletproof, and U.S. agents in the back with the shield up. What happened to bulletproof? And he's saying it's bulletproof-ish. That scene is giving me a lot of hope for this movie.
Yeah. Have a little bit of comedy here and there while they're just feeling life threatened. It should be that way. It shouldn't be they're looking for the comic relief every few seconds like they did in Love and Thunder.
That was dog water.
Because that was just bad. But I'm not going to touch that.
I'm really hoping the MCU is going to hit a resurgence here. Deadpool
Please,
and Wolverine has done really well.
Oh, it was a masterpiece.
I think Captain America Brave New World is going to have to rely on some word of mouth, because it looks good,
They're
but
trying
I
to bring
think
through
no one
adamantium too.
knows what's happening with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this has seen a lot of positive traction, and then the next thing will be Fantastic Four.
Also, real quick, on the topic of what's it called, the Thunderbolts, and when it comes to the story, I agree with you. Story-wise, it could be great.
It has potential,
But
yes.
my worry, and the reason why I don't think it's going to hold as well, is because the big dog so far in the room is the Sentry.
Yes.
The Sentry is a Hulk-level fighter in terms of strength, capabilities. The Void, the alternate personality, just as bad, except he's an actual bad guy. And so now you have the Thunderbolts. Supposedly they have to contain or fight against the Sentry. They're either nerfing him a lot, or they are going to have to pull some magic out of their ass, man. Because the Avengers would have a hard time. Like the OG, like 2015 Avengers Age of Ultron lineup, the Infinity War team might have had an issue with him, honestly. And so how are the Thunderbolts? They're like, okay, guns, bows and arrows. Who's the super? Yeah, you got a couple super soldiers.
Red Guardian, yeah.
And you've
Walker.
got Ghost maybe could phase through for a while, but again, this is Sentry. The dude can fly. He's bulletproof. You think he wouldn't just Omni-Man, grab her skull, crush it, and done? That's my
He's
worry.
Kind of
is
the
like,
equivalent of Superman, just with.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's my worry in terms of how the story's going to go. Yeah, I don't.
That's understandable.
That's why I'm convinced. I don't think he's the villain.
No, I think he'll just be there.
I think he'll be, at first, they'll think of him as a threat. Like, maybe they'll blame him or whatever, but, like, he'll get involved and join this. I'm going to agree with you on the whole Dark Avengers thing because he was part of the Dark Avengers in the comics.
Yes, he was.
So if he does join this lineup and they reveal, like, actually, it's more like, what if we put our own dark little twist in the Avengers? Like that stupid Fantastic Four meme. I got to say it's fantastic. Say that again. Like if they did that and they had that team, it makes sense. You now have three Captain America ripoffs. You have your Black Widow. You've got a Hawkeye type of player. You've got the phasing through things like Vision. If they ever bring in White Vision, God knows where that guy is, but
supposedly on Vision Quest.
Supposedly. So now you've got at least then you have a dark version of the Avengers. All right, if that's really what happens, because Thunderbolts, I'm a fan of the comics. I don't like the fact that it's called the Thunderbolts, but Thunderbolt Ross has nothing to do with this team.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he does get some play in this, and they're keeping all of that right now for Brave New World.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping he will get a little bit of go in this, but let's move it along. Mickey 17 got a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, Robert Pattinson is he's doing some good stuff. This looks really good, I think.
It does look interesting.
His voice work is crazy.
He is putting on a really interesting voice.
I have to. There are a couple.
It seems odd for his most recent one. Sorry to cut you.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
But the most recent big thing he did was the Batman.
Yes.
And you go from that dark tone to now this goofy guy that is just being cloned.
How do you think I feel? In between those two movies was, what was it called? The Boy and the Heron. It was a voice role, but you don't think that it's Robert Pattinson at all. I showed you a clip of it.
Yeah. You had to tell me it was him.
I thought it was Willem Dafoe.
I couldn't even tell it was him.
I thought it was Willem Dafoe, but with a higher pitch. And then it turned out, no, that's Robert Pattinson. And if you look at 2017's Good Time, he does a I don't know if it's Brooklyn, Boston, whatever type of accent he's doing in that movie. Pretty good, by the way. I recommend it. But he pulls an accent in that. The Devil All the Time, I think is the name of the movie. Tom Holland, Sebastian Stan, Bill Skarsgård. It was a Netflix movie. He pulls on a southern preacher accent, heat in your mind and your heart, stuff like that. The way he does accents is mind-bogglingly interesting. So when he does this soft little voice for southern fella up in space, that's just Mickey 17. I think that's going to be interesting to see the way that he can project himself.
And I agree. He must have a hell of a vocal coach, because I really am impressed with some of the work he's been doing. He's doing that dark, gravelly voice for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this weird little country boy voice going on for Mickey 17. And I think it does look really interesting. At one point in the trailer, we see two of them, implying one of these clones is not dead and we can't get rid of them. We've got a bunch of clones running around. And this is based on a book that I've not read, so I can't speak on that, but I think this does look really good.
Yeah.
It looks like a fun watch, I'd say.
I mentioned before the podcast that I was going to dive into the book, and that's just because I haven't read it myself, but from what I understand, it was originally Mickey 7. It was only supposed to be 7 Mickeys shown total. The director, Bong Joon-ho, I believe was his name. If I'm butchering that, I'm so sorry, because that's off the top of my head. He actually made it 17 because he wanted to add more deaths. It's because this is more of a comedic take on the original book, which was a bit of a more darker tone. And again, only 7 deaths, so it was only 7 Mickeys dealing with the same, for what I understand, all around, same plot. That's why it's Mickey 17. That's why it's so much more comedic than the original story. And I think it's going to be even funnier because, it's going to be like a Groundhog Day type of scenario where it's all right, well, now this guy's just dying over and over again, and it's going to be funny ways.
Resetting until he finds out he's got a clone.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then the clone thing, that's, I don't know what movie I'm thinking of. I think it was a Michael Keaton movie, or was it? Did he play multiple guys? Or 2 dudes at least? I don't remember for sure.
Not right off that I can think of.
I don't know if it was Michael Keaton or if it's a different actor. But I've seen movies like that before. It's okay, well, now you have multiple of the same dude running around. Moon Knight is one of the good examples. The show, because you have the 2 personalities, Mark and Steven, running around together, it's giving me the same vibe. But I love the way that you can tell editing-wise, they really honed in on how are you going to take the same actor playing 2 different roles in the same room. I love details like that editing-wise because it's insane. I can't wait to see it. Another Oblivion, Tom Cruise, they did something similar for a while because there were 2 different versions of him. I don't know if you remember. It's 2013. It's old. But yeah, it's I love stuff like that. I can't wait to see what he does. I think Mark Ruffalo is going to be interesting because he always kind of plays like a goody two shoes character. Like
I wasn't expecting him to be in this.
he seems to be the villain or like one of the villains, and it's interesting seeing like that range in him. And I haven't seen him in everything recently, but I feel like he's gonna be fun.
I think this is going to be right up Mark Ruffalo's alley. I don't know if he is a goody two shoes guy because I think that's his Hulk thing.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of him in
two sides.
In Poor Things, where he's just like a terrible lover kind of thing, and the Now You See Me movies, he's like a cop, but maybe I do some magic, but also
he's the secret evil
putting
leader.
you away. And,
Yeah.
very interesting. I'm excited to see that. Mickey 17 should be out sometime, I believe, late this year.
I believe it's either late this year or like started next year. I don't remember for sure.
I'm assuming it's the start of next year, but I could not tell you for the life of me.
Yeah.
Let's hop into the next one. Dog Man got a trailer. This looks like it'll be really good for little kids. I have, of course, not read the books, but it does look funny.
Yeah.
This is my girlfriend is an elementary school teacher. She does take me to these kids' movies because she needs to relate to her students somehow. So I will not be surprised if this is something I have to sit down and watch. I think it looks funny where there's a long pause after they go, well, let's sew the dog's head onto the man's body, and there's a long pause, and they're like, "That's genius."
Yeah, that's so. I'm sorry, that just makes me think of like, so what happened to the guy's head? What happened to the dog's body?
I don't know because
it just feels very morbid the way they just casually think of that idea.
A little bit.
I think that's why the pause was even funny because it's the dog. You hear the blinking of the dog just going like I know it's obviously it's a dog, but you're just kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Brilliant. And then they go with a procedure.
And that's quite the voice cast this movie's gotten as well. I mean, Pete Davidson is going to be in this.
He's the villain, Petey the cat.
Yep. And
Isla Fisher.
Man. Yeah,
you just
Isla
mentioned
Fisher,
her. You just
Ricky
mentioned
Gervais.
Now You See Me. Yeah, she's from Now You See Me, the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's even funny. Ricky Gervais, he's going to be hilarious. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a funny movie.
Oh, yeah.
I like the art style, too. Reminds me of Captain Underpants. Yeah.
It's the same
author.
It's the same author who did that book, so it makes sense.
I like that style. It feels like it jumps out at you very
fits
good.
well.
Yeah.
I think that's a great translation
and
of
it gives its own comedy.
Yeah, it's a great translation of 2D to 3D. I think it's like the Diary of a Wimpy Kid animated show. I didn't think it captured it that well. It was too hard with like the 2D characters. I think in that aspect, the design works perfectly. Like you can tell even from the books the volume that those characters would have. So when you bring it into the real world or like in a 3D environment, it looks perfect. It looks like it's ripped right out of the comic with just some shading. It's amazing.
That's when they're better. It feels like when they're right out of the comic.
Yeah.
Now, Ricky Gervais is in this movie.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Ricky Gervais.
What about... Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
We got a trailer for the Australian The Office reboot.
Oh, boy.
Brother,
now, I suspect we're here in the U.S. I suspect we will never see this show. This is going to be an Australian region thing unless we can dig it up on Prime.
So, yeah.
Yep.
But to me, this trailer is indicative to something more than just another Office spinoff. This, to me, I think is going to be very telling of what NBC is going to do with the American Office revival. Because there's a very, very clear... Thomas, I see you rubbing your eyes. You can't believe we're talking about this.
I wish it was from the cat allergy, but it's not. It's from the fact that we're talking about this crap.
Yeah.
This, to me, speaks that this is kind of the route we're going to go down. The very clear cardboard cutouts of who is supposed to be Michael Scott, who is Dwight.
Yeah, you can clearly tell who's supposed to be who.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very bothering how like they're trying to push it, though.
Yep.
It's like really forced.
It's weird they're doing this.
It just feels very forced.
The American Office is like a global phenomenon. So it's not just like, oh, Australia can finally watch The Office. It's like Australians are like, well, we've seen this, and this is just a weird cookie cutter of something we've seen.
He put my staple in Vegemite, mate.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Like, it's going to be that.
It's just, it feels very odd.
I
just feel
Crikey!
wrong.
I think the best thing they could do here is make the Dwight archetype fight a kangaroo.
Yeah.
I think to me that makes the most sense.
That might be where it peaks, I'm going to be honest.
Instead of like bears, have them like really oddly locked in on like marsupials.
Like koalas or
yeah.
something.
Dipping into the
That'd be
stereotype of
hilarious.
Australians.
I mean, yeah, but like, come on, us Americans.
Even in the trailer, though, they were kind of doing it to begin with.
Yeah,
I know.
It's
the trailer gives. See, the beauty of the original story of The Office is that I talk a lot when it comes to these movie stuff. I'm so sorry, but like I'm passionate about it. That's my thing. The original Office, when you watch the first season, Michael Scott was the only odd seeming character. Every other character had some oddity to them, but he was the one that stood out. Over the seasons, you developed that Stanley just plays crossword, doesn't pay attention. Yep. Phyllis is a little weird character. Yep. Dwight is this big nerd. Jim, yep. He's actually a deeply rooted, passionate guy, even if he is just kind of like not caring about his job, and he pursues a passion. Pam is an artist. Like Ryan,
they all have depth, and they gave it time to develop. But this off the bat is just like, okay, here's the same characters with the same arcs that they get by the end of the show, except you're clearly seeing it from the beginning.
Yeah, it kind of seems like they're taking
It's like a restart, but in Australia.
And like people don't like Jim now because as the show went on, they had to humanize Dwight, but Jim kept playing pranks on him. So now people are saying Jim's mean. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jim archetype is not as mean or playing pranks in this one, Yeah.
But especially because like the Jim character is still male and Dwight is now being played by a female. I don't know how they're going to play about that because you could obviously talk about harassment in the workplace and how all that could play about. That's a whole different story.
It all depends on how they do the jokes. Really. Yeah. It's like how they do it.
And if it goes a step too far, like what if they decide to go into that topic and they do it the wrong way, which I feel like might happen in this case. Just on the looks of the writing, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the Office revival is there's no returning characters. What they're following is the film crew finding a new documentary.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Piece.
So they're starting from scratch.
It's about the film crew starting from scratch.
So it's set in the same universe as the original Office.
Correct.
Except now they're just finding a different office.
Yeah, because they finished off there.
Well, now they have found a struggling newsroom, a newspaper company. And this is who we're going to be following in this new Office series.
I just hope it's not like modern jokes. Like they're just going to throw in like modern terms that like maybe the intern is using or whatever, like slay, Yas Queen.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that, but I'd also hope they are not doing something like that.
Your cat just sneezed on me, by the way.
You're fine. All right.
A little sneeze didn't hurt nobody.
So those are some of the trailers that came out this week. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. I agree. Mm-hmm. Transformers 1 released last Friday. We went and saw it today. Damn, it was a good movie. I did not expect to enjoy that as much as I did. Fun. Let's try and save some spoilers for a little later. We'll announce that.
Badassatron.
It is a bit difficult.
Let's go. What are spoiler-free thoughts here?
Spoiler-free thoughts. Gary, do you want to lead?
Spoiler-free thoughts. I'd say it was a good, solid story of trying to give the origin of Orion Pax, Optimus Prime, Megatron, D16, B. Like, it's a good starting point. It's telling you how Cybertron is just starting up and how it's going before the inevitable fall, of course, of Cybertron, losing the planet, losing it all, to like all the modern Transformers. It's got that cartoonish look. It's good. I could not deny. I loved it. Mm-hmm. I did not think I was gonna love it personally, just because I'm not too much into Transformers. Our guest host here, Thomas, loves Transformers. He's a Transformers nut.
I love a lot of things.
This is a fact. But I came into it thinking the bare minimum. And personally, it rose way above my expectations. And it honestly kept me fixated. It kept me really engaged for a movie that I did not think it would.
It was surprisingly in depth. I knew it was going to be very lore heavy. I think... and Thomas is our resident Transformers expert, like previously mentioned. A lot of this was covered in those War for Cybertron games, wasn't it?
To a degree. I actually own both of those games. Took a fat try to buy them, but what's it called? Part of it is covered. Optimus in War for Cybertron 2010, he's already Optimus. Like they skip the part where like he becomes from Orion Pax to Optimus Prime. But the thing is, this movie actually connects more with the G1 cartoon than it does the games or the live action movies, because design wise it's not identical, of course, but the similarities are that Orion Pax and Elita 1 were, just right, they were like ordinary people throughout. There wasn't a whole like conspiracy. Megatron did want to revolt in different stories based in the origin of Transformers. So they kind of meshed parts here. But yes, they do talk about the Orion Pax becoming Optimus, and then he becomes Optimus Prime, is some interpretations. There's also...
So he was Optimus... Or he was Orion Pax first, then Optimus, and then Optimus Prime.
That's some interpretation. So it's either Orion... Like in the G1 cartoon origin, he was Orion Pax, gets shot by Megatron, gets fixed up by Alpha Trion or whoever it was in the series, and he just goes straight to Optimus Prime. In the games, and in some content... like the Transformers Prime TV series, which is actually same timeline as the games, fun fact.
Interesting.
He was Orion Pax, got damaged during the war. He and Megatron used to be buddies, like kind of like in the movie. Megatron was a gladiator turned revolutionary, like philosophical scholar type thing. Optimus was a clerk in the library. He was just a book nerd. So instead of being, not allowed into the library like in this movie, sorry, we'll talk more spoilers later. He was just a big nerd from the get-go, like learning, and they wanted to revolutionize and change Cybertron. So
Sounds like a whole left turn, if you ask me.
Exactly. But along the way, Megatron becomes more violent, and that results in Orion getting damaged. He changes into Optimus. In the games, you meet him as Optimus. He's not a Prime yet. Over the course of War for Cybertron, he becomes Prime. He becomes the last Prime. The Primes are actually alive, by the way. They just... hide in Cybertron like wusses, but like in the core. But what's it called? In this story,
that's not a spoiler for the movie. You're saying that's just a
thing.
Lore thing.
That's a lore thing. Yeah, no. But I mean, like the spoiler is like when it comes to why he's not allowed into the library or whatever, all that kind of stuff. We can get into that later. But it's kind of funny the twists and turns they do. That being said, it's a great way to get someone invested into like the G1 roots, like the original series of Transformers, because that's basically bar for bar what's going to happen. Like that's how these characters end up in the same place roughly. So you could argue this is an origin story for that. I think it's beautiful. I think it's
interesting.
Pretty well done.
What are your thoughts, Josh?
I think this was really good. I think the cast did amazing. I'm really glad Chris Hemsworth wasn't just doing his Thor voice for an hour and a half.
Transform and roll out.
It's only when he really became like Optimus Prime where he like really like tried to put some bass into it.
And there were parts in that, especially there's a final monologue in this movie. I thought that was done by the original voice actor. Because that did not sound like Chris Hemsworth at all.
That's
but
what
I
I'm
think
saying.
he did really well in this.
There's a lot of bass there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of more depth in his voice for like the end. And that's why I was thinking it was because that he became Optimus Prime from Orion Pax.
Yeah. From what I read about the producers, they're going to slowly transition the voice more into the Peter Cullen voice that we're more used to. God willing, Peter Cullen is still alive and available for those film roles, but that's why he sounds like the Chris Hemsworth. He does sound a little bit younger.
Well, he's supposed to sound like a weaker bot because that's what they're portraying him as.
I just wish they did more dynamically with his voice. He's always like around this tone. Like at the highest he ever goes is to about here. Whoa.
Yeah, I agree.
We're never in trouble. Like when they're not going to spoil it, but he does give a big speech. And he doesn't raise his voice the way a leader would, the way Optimus normally would, or like a Captain America type figure. He doesn't raise his voice. He stays at this tone.
I think it's just because of his range trying to stress it.
Because he's trying to keep that Peter Cullen sounding voice. And of course, Peter Cullen doesn't raise his voice a lot either.
No.
But he has the pitches.
He puts more like emphasis into it.
Of course.
That's what gives it the energy.
He gives it the energy that was missing. And all the other bots are like, yeah, Orion Pax. Like, and he's just like, yes, to victory, to the, and he doesn't, there's not a lot of dynamics.
I agree. They kind of do really strip it back for parts of this. There's parts of it where I think he really should have maybe vocalized more emotionally. There's parts where I thought he vocalized too emotionally.
A little bit, yeah.
Overall, I think he did a good job.
Yeah.
I think towards the end, maybe they should have mixed it up a bit. I think the other voice cast, I think Brian Tyree Henry, who does Megatron in this, is excellent.
Yes,
playing
I loved it.
character who we know is going to turn into this villain,
and
we just watch that descent. I think he did really good.
That like personality, he gave that energy of just like, oh, you could feel that he's slowly tilting over till his cup is run through all the way.
I think Scarlett Johansson is definitely just speaking into a microphone. I got no sense that this is.
I just kept thinking it's
feels
Scarlett
like
Johansson.
It's just her talking, really.
Yeah.
There's no real voice to it. If there is, it's just like a little bit of like auto-tune, I'd say.
Yeah.
I also thought she was going to be RC.
I thought she would. No, you know what? That's the thing. Is like she fits better Alita in terms of her voice, but there's not enough dynamics in terms of Scarlett Johansson as an actress, or at least in her vocal ability. I'll say, because as an actress, she's pretty good. Pretty good. She's like one of the best actresses in the world. Sorry,
she's really.
She's
good.
great as an actress, live action, whatever. But the difference between an actor and a voice actor is huge, and you see that. In this movie, you
feel it in the tone of her voice.
You can see it in the tone of her voice.
Natural, not too much emphasis, not too much feeling of expression.
It doesn't. It just sounds like Scarlett Johansson playing the role.
Yeah,
whereas
they're doing the Chris Pratt thing of, oh yeah, guys, I'm Mario, I'm from Brooklyn. You know,
hey, come on, what are you doing? I'm Garfield, I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah,
I'm Star-Lord, I'm from Brooklyn.
I think that one was okay though. Personally, it wasn't as bad.
It wasn't.
You settle into it, and I think you settle into this a bit here. It's
just I think it has to age a bit, is what it is.
I
Because the Mario movie aged already.
I will say, Brian Tyree Henry, by the end of the film, he started sounding like Kratos. I know it's
a little bit.
I was half expecting him
to
Decepticons, Ares,
and you can tell he's done a lot of voice acting before. He's so good.
Yeah.
I think rounding out the core four, Keegan-Michael Key. There's parts of this where I did not think that was his voice.
I couldn't even tell, honestly.
No, I don't know if he's putting on a voice or if
that was just him.
Altered it.
If you listen to him, that's actually just Keegan-Michael Key's voice.
Is it now?
But I think he's good playing this character who will not shut up.
It's a different take on the Bumblebee.
I think he does great. The only issue for me, the only criticism I would have is that Bumblebee's supposed to be a younger character, and vocally, he doesn't sound like a younger character. Like, I know we only got him briefly, but in the Bumblebee movie, Dylan O'Brien from Teen Wolf and from Maze Runner played Bumblebee, and he still has like a younger sounding, he literally pulls up first thing he says, sorry I'm late, stuck in traffic. Like, he just... I kind of like that punky, younger vibe when it comes to Bumblebee. Obviously, if you go too punky and rebellious, it becomes Hot Rod. But
because that's what we're used to. It feels like that's what we're used to. And then this take on it, it feels like he's just more of a child, not super young child, but like
he just feels like that
just won't stop.
He feels like the young adult who was just kind of like lost in his corner for a bit. And then he meets other adults, and he's just like,
there was some of this where he was lost in a corner for a bit, wasn't there?
He's like a 21-year-old that like finally meets up with 25-year-olds is what I'm saying.
He doesn't sound like people my own age, like people I can agree with.
If I think of the lore, I'm thinking of like, think of it as like a 17-year-old meeting a 25-year-old, and here it just sounds like a 21-year-old meeting a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I get from it.
I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah.
I did not realize Lawrence Fishburne was in this until I stared at this cast list.
I recognized him the whole time. I knew the whole time.
I did not think about it because I was so engrossed in that scene, and we'll get into that in spoilers.
What scene was it?
He was Alpha Trion.
Oh yeah, well I know he was Alpha Trion, but like, we'll talk about
just when all that.
Steve Buscemi is Starscream.
Steve Buscemi, I was not expecting him to be in this, let alone to be this good in it.
Mm-hmm.
He was. He's great in anything.
He's
he does,
great
though.
in. Well, he's got experience of voice acting because he was in Monsters Inc. He was Randall, so he's got some experience when it comes to that. That I thought was great. I know
because he conveys his emotions very
well.
Yeah.
Even when he's like just regular acting, you could tell when he's like mad. You could tell, like you could just feel the emotions he gives off.
Come on, when are you doing that?
Yeah. And his voice just adds it. His voice by itself adds it.
Yeah.
Oh, he was really good. And then lastly on the voice ticket here I want to talk about. John Hamm is Sentinel Prime.
I feel like you could have put anybody else as Sentinel Prime and it would have had the same effect.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire movie, I thought that was Will Arnett. So I hadn't looked at this cast list he was talking. I said, I didn't know they got Will. They got Lego Batman for this. So You're absolutely right. They could have slot anyone in here.
It seems like it.
And they did. It sounds like they just like, all right, we got John Hamm. Cool. What's he gonna do? All right, we'll just send him in a booth for like a week, and he'll say whatever the lines he's got. But there's not a ton of dynamic. Again, and this is why you don't cast Hollywood actors all the time for a voice role. But there wasn't a ton of range coming out of him. He just sounded like, "Hi, I'm John Hamm" as a robot. Have you seen Mad Men yet? Like,
and it kind of works for that character.
It does.
It kind of does, yeah.
They didn't need him to do a lot. They just kind of needed him to be...
They needed him to be there and needed him to read the lines.
They needed him to be the leader for a minute. You know, like...
Yes.
They didn't
wanted
need
him to have
to
the
do
front.
a lot. And even... we'll get into it, but like some stuff happens and you don't really need his voice to change.
Exactly.
No.
You just kind of needed someone to carry it through.
Yep.
I thought it was so funny when I pulled it up and it was John Hamm. I truly thought that was Will Arnett voicing this role.
I will say he has a good tone for the transitions that he does when it comes to his role. Like, we'll talk about it in spoilers, but he has the great voice for it. I just feel like that role could have been anybody.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's
no
the
denying.
thing.
Let's move into some spoilers here. We've done our spoiler-free review of it. Well, real quick, out of 3 stars, 2 being it passed, 3 being this is the best thing ever, 1 seeing I wouldn't step on this with my boot.
I want to say, personally, going from 3 to 1, I want to say high 2.5.
Okay. Gary's big on 2.5s here.
Halves are my favorite.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna say like 2.5.
I'm gonna stick to no decimals. I'm gonna say 3. I think this might be the best Transformers movie.
You think this is the best Transformers movie?
I think.
Have you seen the 1986 original Transformers the movie?
No, you're right there. There's so much Michael Bay schlock.
This is a fact, yeah.
That I watched this, I was like, what a refreshing change of pace. I love the race they have.
Yeah. It's just a completely different take than what we're used to.
And it was great. I was sitting in the theater and I'm thinking, there's like no explosions in this. What a phenomenal change of pace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every 2 seconds with a Michael Bay, it has to have some sort of explosion all the time.
Yeah, it's funny because in the lore of Transformers, the racing stuff isn't new. That's been done forever. There's a whole planet, Velocitron 9, where all they do is race. That's where characters like Hot Rod, Blur, even Bumblebee, and Wheeljack to a degree, I think some of their lore and some interpretations come from that planet. So it's funny that they brought in the racing and all that stuff. They mention it. I'm like, oh, are we going to get a Velocitron reference? Is that what's happening? I thought it was cool.
I think this is a 3 for me. You guys are sticking to about 2.5.
Yeah, because it feels like nothing can have a
numbers.
perfect
What do you
score.
think? 2?
Solid number. I'm gonna go with a 2.
Okay.
Solid number. I want to say 3 just because it exceeded my expectations.
It truly did exceed my expectations.
But that's just because me and you, Josh, are not really versed like Thomas is in this subject.
No, here's the thing. I agree because the promotional material made it seem like just a little kid's origin movie about Megatron and Optimus Prime.
It gave off that look.
But when I watched it, first off, again, the connections to G1 I thought were really interesting. Starscream having the messed up voice matches the G1 cartoon. I didn't realize that's what they were doing. Like, okay, for anybody listening, it's when, is it Megatron? Megatron messes up his voice box.
Yep.
And Sentinel Prime's making fun of him, but when he talks in the film, he just sounds like the OG Starscream. You're like, holy crap, that's him. Like, I see what they're doing. That's why I say, like, this connects more with G1 than it does the original, than, like, the movies. And I think that's perfect, even down to their designs. Yeah. I thought it was good. I want to say the voice acting was a bit lackluster in some bits. I kind of wanted more.
You wanted more emotion?
I wanted a little more emotion, and I wanted more dynamics out of the characters. Like, Optimus is supposed to be young and jovial.
Yeah.
Orion is supposed to be young and jovial. Like, I get it, he's going to carry the ideas of Optimus Prime. Mm-hmm. But he just feels like Optimus Prime just needs a name change legally, and then he's all right. Bumblebee, like, again, like, I think he did really good. Keegan-Michael Key was great. Scarlett Johansson.
I enjoyed that character, yeah.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you could have done this movie without her.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
If there's a character I think that they got wrong, I will say Shockwave. And that's because
he didn't have a lot to do in this.
This is my Transformers lore coming out. But the origin of Shockwave in some stories was that he was actually a senator. He was a politician involved in the Cybertronian politics. And I think he did something wrong. I don't know if he was actually a bad guy or if they just tortured him to the point, but they go through a process where they strip away every aspect of personality from a Transformer. This is an actual thing, a punishment they do. That's why he has the solid eye, no face, no mouth, and that's why he conveys little to no emotion. He's a very logic-based machine. Like, he would resemble a robot more than he would a Transformer with personality.
Well, he is a robot.
Well, I mean, yes, but like he's more. He doesn't have as much personality.
He's supposed to just be straightforward.
Pretty much. Like, he's supposed to be like the scientist. Like, when you see him in the movies and the shows, he's like, Laserbeak has returned, Megatron. The city's under attack. Retreat. Like, he's just very...
He's just right on
and dry.
And like nothing else after that.
Yeah, but in this film, they made him more emotional. I get it. It was funny. Like,
yeah,
because
it's supposed to be a bit of a kid's movie take on Transformers.
Even when he's unconscious, especially when he's unconscious, I feel like that was hilarious. But like, at the same time, like that was the one aspect. Like, hey, you know, maybe it's something that grows, or maybe if they gave him more character, they would dive more into that aspect. But otherwise, I think they did well. They added a lot of the original characters in the background that I was pointing out the whole movie.
Yes,
I know
you were.
You guys can hear me just going like, oh, Sideswipe, Red Alert, dude, Hound, like a Skywarp Thundercracker.
Trampsing around the background.
Megatronus. I love the canonical aspect that Megatronus Prime is the reason why the Decepticon logo looks the way it does. It is his head. I think it fits perfectly. Fun fact, in the Transformers Prime canon, and obviously the video games with it, Megatron didn't have a name. It wasn't D16. It might have been D16 or something, I don't know. But he actually took the name Megatronus. He named himself after the Prime.
Yeah.
And he shortens it to Megatron along the way when he becomes this revered, you know, philosophical character. In some stories, Megatronus Prime is actually the Fallen.
I see.
So in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen was Megatronus at some point. The original design was to resemble more of an Egyptian pharaoh with the jackal. That's what would have tied into the setting in Egypt, because, that's why pharaohs look the way they do, is because they look like, you know, jackals and the different gods and whatever. That's what it was. It was going to explain the logo design. It got changed to whatever the hell that crab face thing was.
Right.
But that would have explained the original origin. That's a version of Megatronus that they have. So I'm glad in this version he was just the toughest dude.
Right.
I kind of like that. I wish we got to see more of the other primes. They mentioned 3 primarily. I know they named 4 others, but they mentioned Alpha Trion. They go into Zeta Prime. There's Sentinel. What was it? They talk about, I already said Zeta. They talk about Megatronus, and there's obviously Optimus. But I wish we kind of saw more. You don't hear about the other primes in a lot of the lore. You always hear about Megatronus. You always hear about Zeta, because those are the big dogs.
Yeah, they're the mains that you're going to hear from all the time.
Alpha Trion, I don't even know if he counts as a prime.
Apparently,
they're the
main turning
apparently
points.
he's part of the team. I don't know if Alpha Trion
he was
prime.
on that lineup. And let's get into some spoilers with that, because I think that's kind of grazing it. When they get their sparks in Alpha, which one was it?
Alpha Trion.
Yeah, Alpha Trion. And all that is revealed with Sentinel Prime he's a big crook. He's a big betrayer. I thought that was all very interesting.
Robs them of their full potential. Right from the start.
Yeah, that he's taking all of their sparks and making them mine. I thought that was very interesting. I definitely saw it coming.
Character depth.
There's no way he's walking around with a big spider robot.
And there's no way everybody's walking around with holes in their chests, too.
Yeah.
Just casually.
Yeah, I thought that was a decent reveal for what they were doing. I mean, it's a kid's movie. It was a good reveal for a kid's movie.
But even still, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
For what it is, even without it just like being a kid's movie, for what it is, it's not bad, honestly.
Yeah, and we see
it's very enjoyable.
Those primes like you were getting into.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Like, oh yeah, here's the flashback, and you see like these were I love the size comparison, that was a detail I loved that they added, was that you see the different size comparisons in characters throughout the film. The miners are children.
They're scrawny, really.
Compared to the primes, like who are the big baddies. When Orion talks with the other miners that don't have transformation cogs, he's towering over them. He's like, if the miners are 5 foot, he looks 8 feet tall. Is the size comparison I'll give. And then when he gets the Matrix of Leadership, him and Megatron gets Megatronus's cog, they get even bigger. And that sorry, like coughing a lot or burping. That explains a lot, like the size comparison of like Bumblebee, even with his cog, and Orion becoming Optimus Prime, and it's like, okay, now you see why Bumblebee is so small.
It's a major upgrade.
It's that G1 stuff that I love. When Starscream and D16 have at it during their little brawl, and Megatron is smaller than him, and then you give him the transformation cog, and he's like, no, he's actually even bigger than Starscream. Now you understand, like, okay, now this guy that beat the crap out of me when he had little to no abilities is even bigger, stronger, and tougher. I have many more reasons to not only be afraid of this guy, but to try and take him down. That helps tie the G1 of like Starscream's just treacherous little bastard, but you know.
Yeah, I think seeing the constant evolution, because especially when they get the cogs, I'm like, oh, this is their final design. I thought they would have done a little more, and then later on they get the Matrix and the cog.
And
then they develop trying to learn their new skills, and it shows them change even further.
Yeah,
it's very good development.
And this is something I also loved, is that they incorporated transformations into their fighting styles.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
Alita using the wheels of her feet to fight against, it was like just some Decepticon minion. You saw Megatron using the transformation of like the tracks that would become his tank mode when he's kicking Starscream, because it adds length to his kick, which is great.
Sporadicness with his
Optimus
knives,
grabbing
Optimus
grabbing one of the Seekers or one of the High Guard, and his transformation requires that his waist turns around. So when he's like bear hugging this guy and he's turning around, and he's using his legs as well to like wrap around the guy. So he's wrapped his arms and legs, and he transforms. He's twisting this guy in half, pops him like an aspirin, pops him like an aspirin bottle. I was like, okay, that's actually really interesting. Like the dynamics of how they using the transformation to like swipe the legs of Megatron during their fight. That's from Forge to Fight. It's like an online game where you can just, you swipe and the character turns into the vehicle to knock them back. But I thought that was cool. Like they transform to add on to one another. I like a reference to Megatron at some point. Optimus rips off the barrel of the tank, goes to hit him with it. Megatron absorbs it into his body.
Yep.
And the barrel was like attached to his side and then on his back. That's a reference to Transformers Armada and the Unicron trilogy, because in those designs he turned into a tank with treads, and he could, with an attachment of a minicon, he could use the barrel like to the front. It would always just hang on his back and fire like above his head, like
it's
he
detachable,
does.
but it doesn't really shatter unless it takes like major damage.
Like when it was sliced, or like when his cannon was sliced by Optimus's axe.
Different. It's already done.
I love the use of the axe, by the way. I thought that was cool.
I thought the axe was great.
I thought it was awesome.
I think this was I think it is definitely worth going and seeing in theaters. We all went and saw it in Dolby.
Yeah. Sound design was great.
Sound design was incredible.
Okay.
I love, real quick, like one last thing, let's move on. The bit at the very beginning where he says, "No, man, I can transform." And he starts doing the motion. He
starts trying to
puts his feet together, and it's a very quick cut to him
running. I love it.
I think that scene alone, it's like right at the top. I thought that scene alone, I sat there and I was like, this is going to be good.
I was going to ask before we transition, but like what you already said, that's like one of your top scenes. What was yours, Gary? Your top scene in the movie for you?
I'd say it's that, or when we first meet Bumblebee and he has all of his quote-unquote friends in Sub-Level really 50.
Oh, man.
And, Orion Pax accidentally murdering one of his friends.
What a way to start this whole quest is they just found a little beacon in Steve's head.
Straight up.
I thought that was a little... like, man, we're really shoveling this thing along. But
it's got its convenience to it, but at the same time, it's like it's okay.
It was good.
Yeah.
On the more mature side, my favorite, or in terms of like the vibe, the maturity of the film, getting into the darker feel, the scene that stood out to me the most, Megatron's about to kill Sentinel. Orion takes a shot, loses an arm.
He's plummeting into Cybertron.
He's about to plummet to Cybertron, and Megatron's trying to hold on and save his friend, but he's like,
he's
you
still
see
trying to
how
stay
emotionally
as D16 for that
perplexed
moment.
he is.
Yeah.
And his eyes going fully red. The theater is dead silent, and you just hear, "I'm done saving you."
That was
that's
really
his
intense.
full transition to Megatron.
I was showing Josh.
It was
I got
fantastic.
goosebumps. I was like, "That is the cold." The fact when that movie comes out in digital, we're gonna get edits of that, and it's gonna be perfect because like it fits Megatron perfectly.
It was just
at least
a
this
great
version.
line.
Yeah.
I'm done saving you. Like the hero who finally gives up being good. I love that was the commitment to the like this is going to be the bad guy we all know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was perfect.
That scene was great.
Yeah, this is definitely worth going and seeing in theaters, I think.
For sure. Yeah.
100%.
Moving right along, episode 1 of The Penguin.
Well,
I don't think we even need to talk much about this because I think it was so universally loved.
yeah.
I think this was a really solid first episode. I'm really excited to see where they take this. I feel really bad for that poor kid, Vic, that he is like dragging along.
Yeah.
And how they start off. And he's like, no, it makes sense for me to kill you. And he's like, don't do that.
Yeah, please don't do that.
I'll
do what I can to help.
Did you notice
kill
that the introduction and using of Vic was a reference to Jason Todd? In the comics, Batman famously met Jason Todd ripping off the wheels
tires
off the Batmobile.
Yep.
And where do we meet Vic? He's ripping off the wheels to Penguin's, little
Maserati.
to his Maserati, his Rolls Royce, whatever that car was. It was beautiful. Yeah. And I love that like dynamic of like, oh shoot, it's that easy to just like take a kid under your wing. And he goes along with the crimes and everything that happens in the first episode. You're like, that's actually kind of terrifying that like it was that easy. Yeah. And it makes you think like, yeah, if it's that easy for a kid to go criminal, then how easy is it to make a kid go robbing? You know what I mean? So
it's a very fine line.
Yeah.
I do have a note here that says maybe the Penguin's not just a bad guy, but it just really sucks that being famous in Gotham is being a mob boss.
Yeah.
Because very early in the episode, they're talking about how Falcone has been shot and his son is going to take the reins. And the paparazzi are following him.
Oh, yeah, because like he's the famous son of a criminal. Of course, it makes sense.
It's very interesting to me that we're not talking about that. I've not seen anyone else mention that. The paparazzi are following around this brand new mob boss.
Yeah.
Just
casually.
And he's just like Nixon, like piecing it. He's
he's
loving
he's
it.
Drunk idiot.
Gotham City #1.
No.
Yeah.
I also like the addition that Penguin also takes a liking to Vic because they both are disabled characters. Vic has a stutter that is very noticeable, and at first it caught me off guard. I'm like, why is he like just letting this kid live? He's like, no, wait, I get it. It's the stutter. And the Penguin, obviously, he's limping. He's got that foot issue, whatever the hell that is. God, those toes creep me out to this day.
I cannot get over that.
The
that
scar,
will be in my nightmares.
Being
for
physically
a few days.
disabled, the way he disfigured, the way he is, like it makes sense that this is someone who's kind of like me. You know what? Sure, I'll show him the ropes. Why not? Someone who I can relate to, and he kind of grew up in the same vibe. So I love that.
At the same time, you're a kid that, of course, doesn't want to die.
Yeah,
hasn't have a full life yet. So you're kind of just gonna go along with the mob boss and what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think the show looks great. I think the show sounds great. I think Colin Farrell is going through hell putting all that makeup on, and it looks really
it's
good.
A mountain of makeup,
3 hours.
It looks perfect.
It's 3 hours to put on and 40 minutes to take off.
There's a bit in this first episode where he is just completely naked, strapped to a chair, and he is the hairiest man I've ever seen.
Yeah, I've seen that clip.
Yeah.
It's really good. I think the reveal at the end where he had Vic send that car, and how everything's handled with the younger Falcone. I can't remember his first name at the moment.
The girl?
No, the son. The son, he's wearing the ring.
Alberto
Yeah.
Falcone. And then the sister is Sophia?
Yeah, Sophia.
It's Sophia.
Yeah.
Yep.
The tension in the restaurant. I wanted to talk about the restaurant scene.
Oh,
because this episode is like an hour and 10 minutes long.
Yeah. And a lot happens.
The way I had to watch this, I had to split it up into 2 parts. I had somewhere to go in the middle of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching this with my brother. We ended it right after the dinner scene where they go and she's been introduced and she's kind of pieced together what he's done.
Yeah. And she's slowly like interrogating him, trying to get it out of him.
Really intense scene. I ended that episode the first time there. They do a little they played a bit of the theme music right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped it and I thought, God, why did they do... and I look, there's 30 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's 30 minutes that I'm curious to see how the rest of the show is going to be, because I feel like that could have been its own episode, the next 30 minutes.
Honestly,
It could've,
I'm glad they
personally.
didn't do that. I'm glad they
kept it one together.
I'm glad they hung it long enough that it's like, all right, here's what he's doing. This is a week after what happens in the Batman, right?
Mhm.
So if this is Halloween, then it's a weekend. It's around the November, like the first week of November. And then you have to look into like, okay, this is what's happening within the first couple of days of the story. You know, Alberto's dead. Then there's Vic meeting his mom. And you get a sense of like you're building the entire world in the first episode and establishing the grounds of what is going to become the series. It's like, you got ties with mob bosses. You lie here. You say this. You do that.
You're building
You
your
commit
time.
these little crimes. You're establishing like, look, this is what you're getting into. A lot of F-bombs, by the way. Which
For younger
which
audiences.
is no,
yes.
I'm only noticing that because the Batman had one F-bomb, and it's because it's a PG-13 film. Obviously, you got to market Batman to kids.
Yeah.
So for the film, for the Penguin to be on HBO Max, and to have those F-bombs, I'm like, good. I'm glad they let it loose. If there was an R-rated cut of the Batman, God, I would go crazy for
I think
it.
a lot of people would.
If it was
Yeah.
available on
Because it was already
Max,
a bit
if there-
aggressive for PG-13.
It was a
It definitely
very heavy
was.
PG-13. Like
Mhm. it was very teetering.
the only
towards
difference
R,
is
and
the
I'm surprised it didn't get to R.
Oh yeah, the violence was honestly matching that of the Batman. This first
Yep.
episode of the Penguin. The only difference is the language. That was
Yep.
the only thing that held it back from an R
Yeah.
rating. And I was
the
watching.
language,
I'm
the
surprised.
mannerisms,
Yeah,
like the way they express themselves as characters.
yeah.
They're very, very crude.
Yeah. I enjoyed that, though. This is a slimy world.
works,
this is like
yeah.
The Sopranos, but worse.
Grease.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
showing you like
I
in
need
depth
an alibi.
the dark side of
Yeah.
like Gotham.
Yeah, the alibi. He goes to
I love that.
to a whore at one point and
A
says...
strip or like a prostitute.
Yeah, he goes to
Oh,
a
yeah.
prostitute at one point and says, hey, I need an alibi. And she's like, yeah, all right.
I got these hours. You know,
I've got these hours. Let's say you were here after 10.
sounds like I had
Mhm.
fun. Like I love that little
Yeah.
exchange.
And it's just a very quick thing. We're not given time to think about it. He's just gone and collected this alibi.
Yep.
Something he's clearly done before.
From the trailers, apparently they had or have a relationship, so it's kind of like, because that character comes back in a moment. So it's like, okay, so there's obviously some sort of a connection there, and I love that how easy and simple it was. It's as if like, it kind of reminds me of The Boys, where Billy like walked everywhere in the first episode, and he's just like talking as if he's a cop or an FBI agent, and everyone just like rolls with it, and it's like, wait, are you a cop or FBI? It doesn't matter. It's all the same to them, and he goes everywhere and does his thing. I
Yeah.
love that aesthetic of like, I love that that's how they bring you into the world and show you what's going to happen and whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's so well done the way that they do it.
They just hook you in with their personalities.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where they're taking it. I think they only set up one thing, that the drop he wants to go see. Everything else is kind of resolved, I feel like, by the end of this first episode.
Kind of. I still love that they're like, hey, they're going to set him up to like take over, but here's how, if he does take over, here's how they're going to set up the war between the Falcones and the Maronis. And you see the the drop operation. If there is a new product coming in, what would it be? I heard somebody online say, what if that's fear toxin?
That would be very interesting.
And
I'd
like,
like to see
I
that.
would like to see them bring
I
the
think it would
Scarecrow.
freak me out though, because like I think you could introduce it as a psychedelic, and then in a gas form it became more potent. So that's how you could have Jonathan Crane. I don't know for sure if that's what they're going to rock with. Just because it's interesting to bring in Scarecrow like that, but then it would also feel like, well, you got to watch the Batman to then understand a bit, and then you got to watch the Penguin, and then so that you can watch the Batman too. It's like,
Yeah, because it's like advertising, really. They
If-
want
yeah.
they
if
want you to
it's-
watch it all.
if it's a low level character, I would be fine with it. You know what I mean? If it's like, if it's a low level thug or whatever that gets introduced and becomes part of the mythos in the films, that's fine. But if you're going to bring on a big bad, I think you need to put them in a movie. I think like if they were to introduce Mr. Freeze, or if they talk more about Killer Croc, or whoever it is that they're going to bring, apparently rumor has it Clayface is going to show up, which would be cool.
I did hear something about that, because there's like a big thing online where this is going to be the bad guy in the Batman too.
I've heard that it's
either that or Freeze.
Because
I've heard
it's
a lot about.
supposedly set during winter, even though it's not going to be like a Christmas New Year's type of thing. It's just going to be
Interesting.
winter.
I
Apparently,
wonder who they would cast.
It's a cold night.
I've seen
night in February in Gotham.
I've seen Mark Strong get cast as Mr. Freeze a lot, which I think he would do well. It's just funny because he's already in the Batman as Falcone. Like he's taking the place of John Turturro, so he's going to play Falcone in the series. So you couldn't pull him in as Mr. Freeze; it would only just make things look weird.
Yeah.
Who would I see?
Gaps in characters, really. At that
Mr.
point.
Freeze. I could only really see Mark Strong doing the role. Unfortunately, he's already played like 3 different villains in the freaking DC universe. If they were not to cast him again, I would have put him as Mr. Freeze. Who would you guys put as Mr. Freeze?
Let's get Will Arnett in there.
You want to get Will Arnett? That'd be
John
funny.
Hamm in this.
Oh my God,
Just bring
John
back
Hamm.
Arnold, just bring back
Hello,
Arnold.
Mr. Freeze. How are you?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to meet you. Smokes a cigarette.
Who do I want as Freeze?
2-button suit.
I don't know.
I couldn't. That's why. That's raising
You're right. I
question
think
marks in my
Mark
head.
Strong is a really good choice.
I have to think if somebody could do like not a German accent, but like a European accent of some sort. I think it would work well if they can play it off right. I honestly think Alan Tudyk, as comedic as he is as an actor, I think he could do all right as Mr. Freeze. It's just a matter of like, it's if you can get the dramatic role out of him because he's he's a very
bring
funny
the drama
man.
to it though.
Yeah, that cycles back to that thing about Jack Black, where it's like, oh yeah, you need to bring the drama out of an actor or character. It's like, how would you do that? Who would you get? It's not Arnold, thank God, no, please no.
Well, it's like when Keaton was cast as Batman.
Oh yeah, he was a funny man, but then as Batman, he's like super serious. Or like everyone thinks of Robert Pattinson, they think of Twilight.
Yeah.
And then you show
Not
him
anymore. Mickey
Yeah.
17's coming out. He's really turned himself
Yes,
around.
he went from playing some creepy, weird bat-like dude to playing a different creepy, weird bat-like dude. Guys,
Yeah,
this is
right.
range.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where they take this.
Yeah.
I have no doubt in my mind we'll be coming back to this probably around finale time
Oh, for sure.
for
man.
this show.
Yeah.
100%.
I think this is 6 or 8 episodes.
I thought it was 9.
Really?
Or did I might be thinking of a different show, but I believe it was like, it's between 6 and 9 episodes. So it could be 7 or 8. I don't remember for sure.
Wow.
Are you looking it up right now?
Yeah, one moment.
What the
It's
hell?
going for 8.
It is going to be an 8. Okay.
Oh, okay,
We'll
that's
definitely
fine.
be revisiting
Oh yeah,
this.
we'll look at this at some point.
We're going to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be revisiting The Penguin. We will be back in 2 weeks. I'm kind of going to have a revolving door of co-hosts. I have no doubt that you two will be returning.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is fun.
Thank you for coming on here.
Yeah, thanks for having us,
and
man.
talking to me about robots and greasy mob bosses.
And
Anytime.
Dogman.
And Dogman.
Can't forget
about
Dogman.
Can't forget Dogman.
I have been Josh Gilliam. I've been here with Garrison Torres as well as Thomas Lemos. Thank you all for listening.